masculine leaves the underwear on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
and the feminine says, "Hey, you left your underwear on the floor again." And this is the second time we've talked about it. The masculine says, "Oh my God, no problem. I got it. I'll fix it." Analytical mind.
Yes.
And they pick it up, and then the feminine says, "Why do you keep doing that?" And the masculine is like, I just took care of it. Like, it's and there's no right or wrong. Great, you took care of it. Feminine is showing you is I'm trying to understand why you keep doing this.
Yep.
Because it's irritating me. It's not enough that you fix it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a problem inherent in why you're doing it.
Why are you doing it? Welcome you to Humanity Unlocked, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
So exciting. I'm so excited for this episode. I've been wanting to do this for so long. Okay. Obviously, I have a list of questions, but before we dive headfirst into those, I want to let the listeners get to know you a bit. Right now, you're single, living on your own in Sacramento, and you mentioned, I believe, that this is really the first time you've lived solo, maybe ever as an adult. Is that right? Did we talk about that? Yeah, that's what I thought. Tell me about that.
So first off, that intro would either scare the crap out of somebody.
Why? Wait, why?
Or totally like embrace it. Like, like 6 kids and
Oh, gosh.
married twice. I love it.
You're a family man.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
really.
I've embraced monogamy
Yeah.
for its finer points.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like the going back to the question, how is it? Yes, I'm like married consecutively for 20 years.
Yeah.
Never, I joined the Marine Corps straight out of high school.
Right.
So I had roommates, and so this is the first year in my life
I know
that I've been living by myself.
That's really, it's amazing. But how does it feel? I mean, are you enjoying it?
I am.
You are.
Just because I've done the healing and the work to be alone with myself.
That would be my next question.
And not go crazy.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people they can't be alone by themselves, with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the deeper part of healing. It is sitting with yourself in your darkness and what comes out and how do you address it.
Do you think that prior to this year, if this had happened sooner, would you have struggled more with that? Were you someone who always had to be with someone and have to live with someone? Was it harder for you maybe when you were younger?
Yeah, I'm definitely a romantic. I love relationships. So if it had happened sooner, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a resilient person.
I wonder why. Well, I guess you answered that question, but I'm someone who we talked about this. I'm a very independent person, but ironically, I wound up being very dependent with my health issues. But I only lived alone for 2 years in between my first marriage and my second marriage with my son, who was a toddler, and I loved it. And there was never, in fact, when he proposed to me, I was elated, of course, because I'm in love with this man and I'm excited we're getting married. But I had to almost grieve the fact that I'd be leaving my own space because, and the listeners know this, we've talked about this before, but I truly enjoy my own company. I really like solitude. So when someone says like, I can't be alone and they hop from relationship to relationship, is your theory or your thought that it's because there's unresolved trauma there and they really just have not done the work?
Yeah, that's definitely, it's basically the anxious attachment.
Yeah.
Versus the avoidant attachment.
Right.
And neither one is good or bad. It's just where we fall within our trauma.
Yeah.
And I am formerly anxious. So now I'm secure.
Yeah.
But any relationship is going to trigger those anxious tendencies, and that's a good thing because when I get triggered, then I ask myself the question, why am I feeling this way?
Exactly.
Yeah, and it comes from either thing or polarity. I'm big on polarity. Everything comes from fear or love. Abundance or lack.
Yeah.
So love bombing is coming from fear or love.
Right.
Because I will love bomb the shit
I know.
out of people,
Yeah.
and they will fear it's coming from fear.
Yeah.
And I have to reassure them, no, it's coming from love.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love myself enough that I'm abundant with my energy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm giving and I'm not asking anything in return.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people that have trauma to one, love themselves enough to receive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that
Mm-hmm.
was my problem too.
Mm-hmm.
And because I wasn't receiving, I just built up this wall that said, I'll just give and give and give. And I don't even know what I need.
Mm-hmm.
So being alone,
Mm-hmm.
sitting with yourself is really asking the question, what does David need?
Yeah.
What do I need?
Mm-hmm.
What do I desire and want beyond the anxiousness or the fear with love?
Yeah. Yeah. From my perspective, I would think that going from relationship to relationship would feel more triggering and there would be more feelings of unresolved trauma that come up than when you're on your own with your own company, because then it's more peaceful. But I think what I'm learning is that when you're on your own, you have these memories, thoughts, feelings that you are able to distract yourself from. Is that sort of, and then they come up in solitude? Is that why it's so triggering for people?
If people are willing to do the work,
Mm-hmm.
and it is work,
Mm-hmm.
and being alone is not the answer for everybody, because we are not meant to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
We are meant to couple
Yeah.
and pair
Yeah.
and mirror each other and trigger each other
Yeah.
for the greater good
Yeah.
of each other. So even when I'm in a, you know, necessarily a bad relationship,
Yeah.
there was good parts in that relationship, but maybe overall it was not conscious and it hurt more than it helped, or probably not helped. It hurt more than it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
Going out of that, the what a conscious person should do is reflect on themselves and say, why was I in that relationship?
Yes.
What about me attracted that person? What do I need to change to be better, to vibrate a different vibration, to attract a,
Mm-hmm.
not better or worse, but a different vibration? Because you only meet the person that you are conscious within yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can
Mm-hmm.
only love you
Mm-hmm.
as consciously as I love myself.
Correct. Yes.
So
Yeah.
if I am meeting a person and accepting that person, I'm accepting them either because of my ignorance or my knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're
Mm-hmm.
becoming more knowing, you start to vibrate Differently and attract differently. You
Mm-hmm.
want differently.
Mm-hmm.
You want more healed. You don't want the fighting and the arguing.
Mm-hmm. Or a lot of, I find men and women actually will almost, forgive the expression, but date down because they want to be the savior.
Yeah.
They want to be, they want to put the broken pieces back together and be the hero. So they, instead of meeting somebody who's at maybe their level, or shoot for somebody that's more quality, it's almost intimidating for them. They want to be the person that is the better, more evolved person. Do you find that?
Yeah, and that's all like what seems like consciousness is actually unconsciousness.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm not here to save you.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell people, like, you don't have to save me. I'm very conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I trigger you, bring it to my attention.
Mm-hmm.
I will I'm very fast at self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And if I trigger you, that's not a good or bad thing. I'm just seeing how you deal with my
Exactly.
triggers. I'm not doing it on purpose because I might trigger you on accident.
Mm-hmm.
But I really want to see how you deal with that. And there's, do you talk to me
Mm-hmm.
lovingly? Are you holding space for me? Because when I'm triggering you, I'm not at my best self.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you convey to me
Mm-hmm.
that you're triggered, you're hurt, that I hurt you, and give me the chance to reflect and say, you know what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do that. Or maybe I did mean to do it. I meant to hurt you.
Yeah.
And that was petty of me. I need to look at that. I'm sorry.
And why? Like, why did I want to hurt you?
Yeah.
What was it about this situation or you in this moment that I felt the need to hurt you? Yeah, I
Yeah.
completely, I could talk forever about this.
Yeah.
So fascinating. Okay. Just to also give everybody a little background, are you currently in a relationship now?
I am in the most amazing relationship
I
right
feel
now.
like you're going to go ahead.
And it's with myself.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like this is a trick answer.
Yeah. And I know that sounds totally avoidant. But from that relationship with myself and that knowing within myself of what I want, what I don't want, what I need, it allows me to more authentically relate to other humans and figure out whether or not they are good for me and I am good for them.
Yeah.
Because when you're kind of like unconscious, everything is about me. Like, no, she's like my thing was, oh my God, she's beautiful and she likes me. I have no boundaries. I love you. I'll do anything for you. I'll bend over backward and kill myself.
Yeah.
And now being a little bit more conscious, it's like, maybe I'm not the right person for you. Because where I'm at in my life and my thinking, I'm not going to help you. And so, not to like obfuscate or beat or like
No, go ahead.
go off that question, but when we meet people, we meet them where they are at.
It's true.
And the infinite levels of consciousness, let's say just 1 to 10, they may be at a 5 and we are at a 4 or a 3. And lower levels want higher levels. That's why we're attracted to certain energies.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we are good for certain energies or they are good for us. Because when you're a little bit more conscious, you can go on a date and look at a person and say, you know, they're amazing, but they are not ready for this type of relationship. And I'm not ready to devote all this extra time into babysitting somebody.
Yeah. And like raising them up into,
And it sounds maybe harsh.
Yeah.
But that is self-love.
But it's true. Nothing you're saying is incorrect. It is absolutely the truth. And I think it's something that it's hard to understand. But it's true. I think for some people it's hard to understand if you're not at that point. And I'm really phrasing that wrong. It's almost like, well, we're here and you're there.
Because
it's
I've
not what I
met
mean.
women that I was highly attracted to and I wanted to have a relationship with, and they were beautifully and bold enough to say, I'm not ready for you.
Yes. So they recognize that you had done the work and they're not quite there yet.
Well, what they're really saying is, David, you still have some work to do.
Oh, the opposite is true.
Opposite.
Oh, okay. Wow. Were you able to receive that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was like, okay, maybe I'm still talking about my ex and the trauma. Oh, because if I'm still talking about it, I'm still in that energy.
Yeah.
And even though I'm a coach and I talk a lot about these things because I talk about what I know, their perception may have been, wow, if he's still talking about this energy, I'm afraid. Or maybe he's still in that energy and he will be a great person when he comes out of it.
Yeah.
And he's not talking about that.
Right.
And he's talking about like going on camping trips and hiking.
Yeah.
And so, it's not right or wrong. It's just upon us to receive that information and just ask ourselves the question.
I think something that you said really stuck out to me because it's so true with men, or at least the men I know. And I mean, I have a 21-year-old son. You know, obviously I have a husband, and I have a fair amount of male friends that it's like the criteria for a lot of people is she pretty and does she like me? It's
Yeah.
like that's it. And, you know, and they don't, you know, there's certain qualities and aspects to the relationship that are also so important. And unless you sort of lean in and want in the beginning to want those, um, it's going to come up later on. So it's good that you have an awareness about like, okay, actually my standards are a little bit higher than whether or not she's pretty, if she likes me. But I think that a lot of men fall into, I think women do too. You know, if it's a
Oh yeah.
really great looking, successful guy and he likes them, that's it. Game on. You know, it's like,
And
yeah,
it's not really about men or women. It's just
it's true.
uh, unhealed, and we're all broken. So the level of healing and self love gives us just a little bit deeper insight into our own traumas and coping mechanisms
Yeah.
and we uh, the way we need love and express love.
Yeah.
So the five love languages is a great thing
Mm-hmm.
to understand. One, how you receive love is sometimes different from how you give love.
Mm-hmm.
And after I left my last marriage, one of the things that I'm a Virgo, like meticulously about overthinking in my own head.
Mm.
And I said, I don't, I'm not going to like subscribe to one thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to master all five,
Yeah.
receiving and giving.
Yeah.
And wherever somebody ever tells me I'm lacking, I will balance that out um, with their perception and my reality, and work towards saying, okay, can I be a better gift giver?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's stopping me from being a better gift giver? And it's not enough to say, well, that's not me.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the way I show love. It's like,
Yeah.
no, if I'm going to be a complete lover, and we should all be striving for balance, not
Mm-hmm.
completeness, but balance. If I'm a more balanced person, what is lacking in me that I don't give gifts? You know, like whatever, and just working on
Because
that.
it's not really about the gifts. It's about like doing the work on like, okay, what is the reason why? You
Yeah.
know, yeah, that is going to give me something to think about. Very, very interesting. As you started into the dating world, what was your belief system about yourself at that time? Did you have any insecurities formerly when you first sort of embarking in the world of dating?
Definitely. I had come out of a 14-year marriage in which there were things that had been done that caused the demise of that marriage, that made me deeply look at myself with insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
you know, not being enough, not being, the things that hit me was I need to get back into the gym.
Right.
I need to work on myself, and all these things that I did, and great, like,
Mm-hmm.
but the realization that that person's uh, perspective or perception of me is not maybe healthy. So why am I taking this on and causing these insecurities?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I must not love myself enough
Mm-hmm.
to reject that,
Yeah.
and not necessarily reject them as good or bad, but understand that they have everybody has their own traumas and their coping mechanisms. So now, like in relationships, it's like, do I want to deal with your coping mechanisms? Can I deal with them
Mm-hmm.
in a loving way where we can kind of like both dissolve
Yeah.
these perceptions of ourself? And that's beautiful. That's
Mm-hmm.
healing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or is this person going to reject because they're not at a point that they can accept that beautiful constructive criticism that lets us grow and be better humans and fight less,
Yeah.
and then expand into deeper levels of vulnerability, which just means better communication, better sex, better hikes, better love, better just
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now that you've been single and dating for a while, what do you find yourself looking for in a partner? And what are some of the red flags that you've been able to identify as like being deal breakers?
Uh, I think the going to red flags, the biggest red flag for me is a person that is not confident within themselves,
Yeah.
in their own knowing, and lack of confidence. You know, when you're unhealed or more broken, it's like that's that savior complex. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you are not confident in yourself, then I have power and dominion over
Yeah.
you.
How does that lack of when you're dating? How does that lack of confidence generally manifest in terms of like what does that look like when you're dating? What kinds of what are women? What would that red flag look like to you?
Like, well, as you said that, I was thinking, you know, lack of confidence is not necessarily a turn off.
Mm-hmm.
It can be cute.
Mm-hmm.
It can be endearing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, um, when a woman looks down, because I had lack of confidence as a kid and a young man, so it was kind of like endearing
Yeah.
in a way, like
Well, there's
and
an absence of ego there. Well, not always, but like an almost like an innocence.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's overconfidence, which is kind of like bulldozing, and there's no room for exploration.
Yeah.
So I think now that we've kind of like talked about it, and I've literally here like thought about it, um, I like a person who is extremely confident
Mm-hmm.
in the in all the best ways,
Yeah.
but is also not the term is married
Mm-hmm.
to anything,
Mm-hmm.
meaning everything is an open conversation, a theory that can be, two people can vibe and
Mm-hmm.
work on it
Mm-hmm.
for the betterment and moving it up.
Yeah.
Um, so when I see a person that are like, I don't like this, I don't like that, it's like, oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
okay. Is that because you are in your knowing and you've tasted or tried that and because you experienced it? Or is it just, like a thought
Yeah.
instead of there's no practical application of understanding
Right.
why you don't like it? Is it just, something that you're adhering to?
Like
Because,
on the surface, this does not sound like a good idea. Therefore, I don't like it.
yeah,
Yeah. And with no investigation. Yeah.
exactly. Because and it's like, and it's not about what it is, it's about the thought process. How open? Okay, so how open are you to new experiences? How open are you to looking at yourself
Mm-hmm.
and examining yourself?
Mm-hmm.
With that, because I'm highly open to
Mm-hmm.
these things, we have a place to work and create with. If a person is solidified in all their beliefs, then I'm basically signing on
Yes.
to your life.
Yes.
Um,
Such a good way to put it.
yeah, and there's no problem if I am aligned with those beliefs.
Yeah.
But if I see something within you that, yeah, you are beautiful, you are dynamic, you're amazing, and you're open, you have your beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
but you're open to exploring,
Mm-hmm.
it's like we can create
Yes.
something together.
Yes. Oh, I love that. We just do not hear that enough. And not even just in dating, just in life. I just feel like people are attached to whatever it is they think and believe. And it is truth, period. and
Yeah.
there is no room for nuance, and there's no room to learn and grow beyond that. And yeah, it's so true. It's true in all areas.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was hanging out with an amazing coach, and she's Muslim,
Hmm.
and she was like, for so long, my mom and dad wanted me to marry a Muslim man, and I chose that I'm not going to limit myself to a Muslim man. If I find one, great.
Yeah.
But there are so many more men out there that, he has to be spiritual.
Hmm.
Like, I can't just
Hmm.
marry somebody that is not religious, but also not spiritual.
Yeah.
You can find a good balance. And why am I adhering to what my mom and dad want? You
Hmm.
know, like, am I bold enough to seek out my own love
Hmm.
with without the restrictions? And I really complimented her because, our parents can, our parents are our first love and our first
Hmm.
trauma.
Hmm.
Um, and if you're living for anybody else rather than yourself, then, you know, it just puts a lot of limitations. So,
Yeah. It's hard. I know as a parent, I'm sure, you too, like we all mean well. We've lived longer. We sort of know, like, you go down this path that tends to look like this, you go down that path. So in learning, especially with both mine, 21 and 15-year-old, learning to bite my tongue. And really, you just have to learn by moving through your own experience. So while parents mean well, and generally speaking, most people mean well when they're telling you, you need to date a Muslim man or whatever it is. Um, Only we know. I feel like
yeah,
what the path looks like for us, and if it's not the right path, that will show up too, and that we'll learn something from that as well. And sometimes that can be just as valuable, going down the wrong path and learning. Like my daughter just had a situation where she learned something the hard way, and I just said,
hmm
but you couldn't have learned it any other way. You had to do it that way in order to learn what you had to learn. So don't look at it like I made a huge mistake, because that's the only way you could have learned it, most likely. So yeah. On the topic of authenticity, self-awareness, self-actualization, I know these are areas you take pride in your own life. So I'm going to assume that you also look for them in a dating partner. Obviously, when both men and women are dating, they tend to put their best foot forward and they show us the best versions of themselves. But I do wonder, as someone who values these qualities, because I've wondered this, I value these qualities now, but when I back dating 20 plus years ago, I didn't know what those qualities meant. So, but I'm wondering, as someone in their 40s who's dating now, single dating now, someone who values these qualities the way you do, and as someone who is the age you are you able to easily recognize whether or not they actually exist in the person you're on a date with, or how easy is it to spot, for lack of a better phrase, if someone's done the work?
you will know a person when they don't get what they want
Oh, yep.
or when they are triggered,
Mm,
and how they go about handling and coping with that trigger
mm-hmm.
and not getting what they want is very indicative of where they're at. Not good or bad, not higher or
Mm,
lower, just where they're at. And from there, when I see that, I know what I'm working with,
mm.
because relationship is the work. So then I sit there and say, do I want to do more uh, work with them?
Yeah.
Do I want to give more time? Where is the juice worth the
The
squeeze?
squeeze, yes.
Um, and when I see that, I stay.
Yeah.
And that is, even if that doesn't end up in a relationship or, whatever, just that process of being present in life
Mm-hmm.
in that situation, I know I'm going to walk away with
Yeah.
something that I wanted, or something that I needed to enact a new boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And so no relationship is a bad relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They are just more conscious or less. And because we're in that relationship, if we are less conscious, that relationship is teaching us literally about the boundaries that we have not learned to
Mm-hmm.
set and need to enact.
Oof.
And a lot of that is about self-love. When I literally walked out of my last marriage, it was because I loved myself so damn much that there were no more lessons. There's no more growth that we could do together. And I had to take all those lessons with immense gratitude
Yeah.
and learn them on my own.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but when you are made to feel like you are too much or not enough, too much of one thing, not enough of another, and you're hard to love, it is amazing when you leave that energy, heal yourself, and you walk into another person's energy and they say, literally, David, you are so easy to love. And that dissonance broke me the fuck down, because here I am thinking I'm so hard to love. Like, what is it about me? And it's like, no, you're always going to be hard to love, not necessarily for the wrong person, for the person that is vibrating at a different level, higher or low. Because if you're vibrating with a lower level, they don't know how to love you.
Yeah.
Because they don't know how to receive the
Right.
love that you're giving.
Right.
It's so traumatic. It's so fearful. They don't know if it's coming from love or fear. And if you're, resonating or in a relationship with a person that's at a higher level of consciousness than you, same thing. They're butting heads with you because you're not getting what they're laying down. People love to fight and argue because they don't feel heard, because they watch their family and mom and dad fight. So they only know love at a level that they've been taught love, that they experienced love and saw love.
Yeah.
So my father and mother never fought in front of us. They divorced. But there was no screaming and name calling. So when I got into a relationship with a woman that her whole life was mom and dad screaming at each other, and I'm at the parties and I see this, when she would scream at me, I would take it so personally that it brought me to suicidal thoughts.
Oof.
I would have to go out on a drive and talking to myself, you're a piece of shit, David.
Yeah.
Like, you're not, like, she said all of these things about you. Why would a woman say something about you if it wasn't true? In my perception, my reality.
Yeah.
And when I healed, it wasn't about that person being evil or a bitch or bad. It was looking at that person and saying, whoa, how much pain do you have in your heart that you're so unconscious that you now are doing what your family did or your parents did? And now, instead of taking it personally, it's like I have a level of empathy and grace and forgiveness. Because when my son thought he got cheated on by his ex-girlfriend, it broke him. And he's crying in my arms and he's saying, Dad, I loved her. What did I do that was so wrong? And I held him and said, buddy, it's not about you. You didn't do anything wrong. And don't change the way you are because somebody hurt you. It's not about if she did cheat on you. Think about this. How hurt and broken does she have to be to not, communicate that?
Yeah.
Or need that attention?
Yeah.
Not about you.
Yeah. I think that you just hit the nail on the head. I think that when people haven't done when we're talking about like infidelity, and I know we're going to get to this, but like when there's this work that has not been done, and their partner is not, what they're giving is just not enough because they themselves have to do the work. It can't be up to their partner to heal them. They have to heal themselves. And so they're looking outside the relationship to find these experiences to sort of shore up where they should be shoring that up on. I don't know. I'm probably
Yeah,
explaining it
no, you're
terribly,
right.
but
The
that's how I
lack.
see it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
filling in that hole that you're using other people to fill that, but you need to fill it yourself.
And so, yeah, like back to what you're saying, it has nothing to, from my experience and what I've seen, it has really nothing to do with, or not a lot to do with the person they're cheating on. I mean, I have been cheated on. I'm pretty sure I know the situation behind. I mean, I know because we talked about it, but not by Mark. Just to get clear. But yeah, I mean, I actually was blessed enough to have a conversation with him afterwards, where he actually, like, we spoke very kindly, rationally, and I really got to unpack and understand. So this was I was long time ago, way before Mark. But it was, it's helpful, to be able to, and he was candid, and I appreciate that. And that's how I really started to understand why people cheat, So anyway, we're gonna go circle back to that in a second. But I want to ask you about narcissism versus empathy. It's the hot word right now. How these personality types or qualities show up when dating. It's a hot topic of conversation among single dating women, especially women who are generally more empathetic. A lot of these women tend to be a magnet for narcissistic men. I know some. As someone who considers yourself to be on the empathetic side, I would agree with that. Is narcissistic personality disorder something you've encountered in women, or like how prevalent is that? And let's just talk about that as it. I mean, the two, because really, when we met for the pre-interview, you were really saying like one or the other, and we're all a little bit of both, right? Can you expand on that a bit?
In trauma, we are born perfect. There's nothing wrong with us. We come into this life how we are meant and designed, even if you are autistic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're meant to either be a light unto others or be a light unto yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We're all in this universe. When you see a drug addict, that person is showing you
Mm-hmm.
what you could be, what you could not be.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all born perfect. Between the ages of 4 and 7, we have this psychological split where somebody dies in our life. Somebody gets gunned down in our neighborhood. We are molested, raped. Something that shocks our psyche and says the world is not safe. Mm. So from there, we usually become empathic or narcissistic, or or in the range.
Right.
Everybody's a little empathic. Everybody's a little narcissistic.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the ego,
mm-hmm.
and it serves. It is not, narcissist is not a bad word. Empath is not a good word. Right. It's just where we fell on the spectrum of our coping mechanisms. Because an empath, dad comes home, he's pissed off, he's angry. The empath runs down the stairs and stops and says, you know what? I'm feeling this energy. It's not safe. I'm going to go back to my room. I'll come down when dad's a little bit more quieter and more. The narcissist just kind of like runs down. Hey, I don't care. Like, I'm just going to control the situation and make it safe for me. Yeah. And the problem is when we don't heal and we don't have counseling, we don't have counterbalance to that, then it becomes our personality. And when we go farther in life, that can become our reality. It's the way we perceive the world and the way we take in the world. Mm-hmm. Because I can tell somebody, I love you, mm-hmm. and they can either embrace that as truth, fact, lies, or something in the middle that needs to be investigated. Narcissistic personality disorder is, definitely on the rise, with social media.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
Because our DNA is being shifted, because we're watching and looking for the likes, looking for the validation. we're not in person
Mm-hmm.
really experiencing the wide spectrum of emotions that are there with a human being.
Right.
We're just seeing them as, oh, that's a really beautiful bikini pic on
Right.
a sunset,
Yes.
um, regardless of man and woman.
Right.
And then when you meet them, like I used to do, I would, disregard all the red flags because I didn't even know these red flags existed. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know how to look for them because I wasn't conscious.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is when you're dating, especially when you're younger, and not conscious, you're looking face value at what you desire, vice what is actually there. What quality is there? Like, yeah, that guy is hot. He's ripped. He has 100,000 followers.
Mm-hmm.
But is he kind?
Yeah.
Is he gentle? Is he nice? Is he safe?
Mm.
Do you even know what safe energy is? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. We are all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a more unhealed human, I hurt women. And that was, and women hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
We were both there to hurt each other so we could establish boundaries and say, I don't want to be
Yeah.
with a guy like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and I remember the first time I hurt somebody, it was like seventh grade. No, eighth grade. And she was cute. I really, really was into her. And we dated for literally like 2 periods until my friends found out. And they're like, oh my God, you're dating Chrissy, the sailor suit girl? And I'm thinking, oh, she's adorable. She's nice. She's kind. She's safe.
Mm-hmm.
But because my buddies made fun of me, I broke up with her as a coward through a note that I passed to
Oh.
a friend, and I watched her cry in the hallway, and I felt like shit.
Yeah, of course.
We went to high school together. She was always standoffish, but we were not like enemies. But like 10 years later, when it hit me and I became conscious to what I did,
Mm-hmm.
I found her and said, hey, listen, I'm sorry for what I did that day.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was nothing about you that
Yeah.
was wrong. I actually thought you were an amazing person. And she was like, thank you. I've carried that with me since that day that happened.
Oh my goodness.
Because what I thought of you is that you were kind, you were nice, you were cute, and you were funny. Why would a guy like that do something like that to me? And I'm like, whoa,
No.
fuck, it's not about you. It was about my insecurity.
Makes you want to cry.
I'm crying right now.
Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh.
it was about my insecurity.
Wow.
Because I listened to a bunch of knuckleheads make fun of me.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, why would you date Chrissy? And I'm like, why wouldn't I date?
Mm-hmm.
As a
Mhm.
man that now surrounds himself with men that say, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And I will not surround myself with people like, you can ask me why.
Mm-hmm.
It better be loving. It better be filled with inquisitiveness, because if you're not here to amplify me,
Yeah.
I am a why not.
Yeah.
If you tell me, like my partner says, like, I want to go to the moon, I'm like, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how can we do this? How can we
Yeah.
create this? Like, maybe it's not the moon, but I can build a set that looks like the moon, and like whatever. That's the beauty of relationships.
I wonder about with someone like yourself, if and I actually talked to my therapist friend about this too, because of what you do for a living and because of who you are as a person. Actually, it's two different questions. One is, okay, it's almost as if you can speak a language that some people are not going to understand. Like when you talk about consciousness and stuff, I mean, I know exactly, and I love it. I love these talks. But there is a percentage of the population that they're not there yet. They don't, maybe it's not even because they don't want to be there. Maybe they just don't understand. Do you ever find yourself in a situation where either A, it's a language that somebody's never been exposed to and they don't really understand, or B, do you ever find yourself in where you're dating somebody and you end up you fall into the coaching role, and then that becomes a dynamic that's not necessarily great?
Yeah, that's there. It goes back to, if I'm speaking a language that somebody doesn't understand, it's okay. Like realizing that I'm not the evangelist, I'm not your messenger, and I'm not here to convert you.
Right.
I'm not here to tell you this is the right path or the wrong path. Your path is what you are figuring out, finding out, and with the interaction with the relationships, friendships, coming more to balance. So that like second question, which I totally forgot.
Oh, like, do you ever find yourself falling into the coaching role where the dynamic kind of shifts and it doesn't,
Yeah.
where you're giving somebody coaching advice?
Yep. And I've done that.
Yeah.
And the vibration that I'm attracted to is the one that calls me out lovingly
Oh,
on that,
yeah.
and makes me aware that I'm coaching right now. And when I'm coaching, I'm not talking about the I. I'm talking about the they or the you. And authentic relating is getting back to how I feel, vice how, basically speaking generalities. And that is highly attractive to me because I'm so damn conscious that when it's done to me, I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
You're pulling me out
Yeah.
of the Instagram talk,
Right.
and you're wanting to know how I feel.
Yeah.
And that's the vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because when I'm doing that, the conscious people around me know what I'm doing. They know I'm obfuscating. I'm not being, not necessarily authentic, but I'm not being vulnerable because there's something there that I really don't want to talk about. So I'm using generalities to explain it. And that's beautiful because that's taught me, when people do that to me, I'm like, okay, there's something deeper here that they don't really, they don't feel vulnerable yet.
Yeah.
So how can I create that safe space
Yeah.
for them if they want to express their deeper truth?
Right. Yeah, that's good. That's really good because I could imagine dating a coach would be, like, I always say this too about my personal trainer, like dating a personal trainer, like when you're with somebody that has a specialty, that's such a valuable, it's like, oh, take advantage of that, man. You got free at your fingertips, like you can, but at the same time, I imagine that it could create a dynamic that's not necessarily helpful for a relationship. So it's just about sort of switching that and being in it instead of talking. I get what you're saying, in other words.
Yeah, and it's getting to the point where instead of talking about your truth, you're living it.
Yes.
So now I'm trying to live my truth as authentically, and I don't have to explain why I'm doing it or what I'm doing it. I just live it.
Isn't that interesting? I recently noticed the same thing about myself, that it is interesting that when you are living your truth, there's really not much to defend or explain, because it's when you're out of, how would you say that? Out of alignment, I guess, with yourself. Yeah. That you tend to be over-explaining yourself. And I have been there. I'm the first to admit I've been there. And when you're living in your truth, it's not necessary. The opportunities don't come up where you have to do that. So it totally resonates with me.
Yeah, or when we're over explaining, that is either coming from a trauma response that we're not over it. We need to be heard. We need to voice it out more because we're looking for different intake of opinion or vibration, like misery loves company,
Yeah.
or company loves a new paradigm shift. Like, if I'm open to it, tell me something I'm not seeing,
Yeah.
and I'm if I'm open to it,
Yeah.
that's going to help me grow. But if misery loves company, then I'm just saying it because I want, and this is not a bad or good. It's like I need attention. So everything is polarity. So
Yeah.
when I'm moving through life, anything that happens to me said, nanoseconds, I'm looking at the polarity: fear, lack, abundance, love. And
Yeah.
neither is right or wrong. It just lets me understand where a person's at so I can, if I want to,
Yeah.
counterbalance it
Yeah.
or enjoy it or
Yeah.
be repulsed from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like the only over explaining that I find myself doing not a lot of, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. If I'm going to go in, I'm going in, and I'm going to really like explain it to death. And it's with my husband. And because he's very simple and I'm very not, I'm not a person that's in my head a lot, but I'm a communicator and I like to talk things to death and like, and he's very simple, and we've been together a long time. So obviously we've made it work, but, my need in my marriage is I only ever want to feel understood. Like, did you get me in that moment?
Yeah.
And as long as I don't need to over explain shit, if I know he got me, done. Like, and so that's something that we had to learn in our marriage is that as soon as he gets it, I need to know he got it. So I don't keep going because for whatever reason, it's the only relationship that I feel like I really just need to know he sees my intent like always and he gets it. But yeah.
And that's the masculine and feminine paradigm where the masculine leaves the underwear on the floor and the feminine says, hey, you left your underwear on the floor again. And this is the second time we've talked about it. The masculine says, oh my God, no problem. I got it. I'll fix it. Analytical mind.
Yes.
And they pick it up. And then the feminine says, why do you keep doing that? And the masculine was like, I just took care of it. Like, it's, and there's no right or wrong. Great, you took care of it. But what the feminine is showing you is I'm trying to understand why you keep doing this.
Yep.
Because it's irritating me. It's not enough that you fix it. Thank you. But there's a problem inherent in why you're doing it.
Why are you doing it? Yeah.
And that is going back to my primordial need as a feminine to feel secure.
Yes.
Because if you keep doing something that is not congruent to the relationship or it's making me irritated, then I'm losing security in you, your ability to make me feel secure. And I know that sounds like hypersensitive, but that is the dynamic between the masculine and the feminine and how we microbid for attention and how we microbid for understanding.
Yeah. I used to say there was a period of time somewhere in our marriage where I remember saying to him, whenever you leave dishes in the sink, it's as if you're making a conscious decision that Kim will do it.
Yep.
And it takes no effort to just put them in the dishwasher or wash them or whatever you want to do. But the more you do it and you just keep adding to it and the sink's starting to overflow, I come home, I left, the sink was empty. I come home and it's overflowing. So what you kids and husband have told me without telling me is that mom will do it. And that it's like you don't value, it's like, so, but do I really think that their intention was that? No, but it's like, for me, I need to know why you did it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
And then this is where the arguments come from, because the masculine will fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yes.
feminine wants to know why it's broke in the first place.
Right, exactly.
So as the feminine, in the worst cases, when a person is just like diving in, no, I want to know, the masculine is pulling back,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a negative and positive charge there.
Yeah.
So negatives attract polar opposite.
Yeah.
So as one is pulling back, there's the need to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And so one is retreating for safety, for solace, for this is too much right now.
Yes.
And the other person is like, no, like you're running away from me. You're running away from this conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to have you run away from this conversation,
Yeah.
because we need to sit down and we need,
Yeah.
and the man is like, oh, I'm being overwhelmed. And it really just comes to a point where men, more than I think women,
Mm-hmm.
need to understand like that feeling,
Yeah.
because we're usually in our analytical, and we do feel as men, but we are so incongruent with those two, polarities and
Yep.
things. And I personally feel, and I reserve the right to be wrong, that women are more closer
Mm-hmm.
in their feeling and their analytics.
Yeah.
And when they are not that, anybody's not out of balance.
Yeah.
But I think men are more out of balance, more with our feelings and our analytical side. So when we are coming, both of us are coming together, it is the most beautiful thing, because then you can leave that underwear on the ground and it can be addressed in a safe way, because one is not pulling back.
Mm-hmm.
They're standing firm and saying, I'm here. I know I did this the second time, and I know it's because I'm looking at myself. You ask me why I'm doing this. I'm either lazy, or when I get home, I'm just so used to, as a kid, just dropping my stuff,
Yeah.
whatever the hell
Yeah.
that is.
Yeah.
But there is, once again, we are working together
Yes.
for a solution. You are kindly bringing up to me, which allows me the safe space to be able to be in my feelings
Yeah.
and feel, why am I doing
Yeah.
this? Beside the analytical, like,
And
I'm
I don't think
lazy.
there's a right and wrong answer to that. Like
No.
in what you just said, with why he's doing it, it's either a habit or I'm. There's no right or wrong. I think that you just want to, like, tell me, like, that way I can leave this conversation satisfied and not feeling like it's you're doing it carelessly just to get under my skin, or like what I don't
Yeah.
know what women think. I don't know that I thought anything. I just wanted to know. And even if, like I said, no right or wrong answer. It's not, most of the time it's because it's not a priority. Like the things that are a priority to us are not, in my own marriage, I noticed this, the things that are a priority to me are just definitely not to him. So he's not going to care about the sink is full of dishes or
Yeah.
if the underwear's on the floor. He's not, he's like, what's the big deal? For me, it's a huge deal.
And
Not
here's the
huge,
thing,
but-
like John Wineland and David Dieta talk about this a lot. And these are the two people that I go to as a man to understand myself and men and women. And John Wineland talks about it a lot. Like, if you really want to get a man as the feminine, if you want to get the masculine to do something, telling him why he should do it and why it pisses you off doesn't, it's just the analytics.
Yeah.
If you can make him feel, then you have tapped into the deepest part of him that he doesn't even know about.
Yes.
He is unaware of. And how John Wineland does it is he has in his sessions the masculine and the feminine in front of each other.
Mm.
And he says, ladies, tell him what he did was wrong or why, like, yeah, you left the underwear on the floor.
Mm.
Men, how did you receive that? Yeah, like, I get it. Like,
Yeah.
I left the underwear on the floor. Now, tell him how you feel about him leaving. I'm feeling irritated. I'm feeling pissed off, blah, blah. Now he's feeling shame,
Right.
like rejection and all that. And then he says, all right, ladies, now without speaking and saying a word, look into his eyes and emote how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And, these women would get frustrated and cry and break down because it's not about the fact that he left the underwear on floor. It's
Mm-hmm.
really the deeper emotion
Mm-hmm.
that is triggering her.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, men, how do you feel about that? And men in general were like, I will do anything for her right now. Like, whatever you need, I will do it. Because
Mm-hmm.
she's emoted something so deep in him that is primordial. Like, if you have
Yeah.
a daughter, you don't want to see your daughters cry.
No.
Like, you will raise the roof
Yeah.
and destroy anything that makes her cry, right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about tapping into the emotions, getting vulnerable, getting real, and conveying. And when you do that, like, it's really easier
Mm-hmm.
to get somebody to just really understand you and
Yeah.
then be motivated. I don't want to see you
To change.
cry
Yeah.
ever again because I left my underwear on the ground.
Yeah.
So now, as soon as it hits the floor, I'm thinking about you.
Yep.
And I'm taking myself out of the I and I'm putting it into the we.
Yeah.
What can I do to make this relationship safer and
Right.
better?
Yeah. What we ended up doing with this is we ended up peeling back layers and layers and layers. And what it came down to was, and he agreed, and I got him in his feelings. And this was when you said that, I was like, bingo, that's exactly what it was for us. You have to hit their feelings. Because what I said was, it seems like once we were going under the layers, it seems like you only care about a couple of things. You care about work and business, and you care about your family. You love your
Yeah.
family, and you
Providing.
and yeah. But you don't really care about whether or not the phone call gets made, or the thing this gets picked, the errand gets done, or the house gets, like, you don't really. There's not a lot you care, and there was a bunch of stuff, and I care about many things, and I high standard of them, and there, for years that standard dropped when I was not with my condition. But the point is that I said, I just need you to, like, or what I said was, how do you feel about the fact that you don't care about much? Like, there's only like maybe two things that you really care about. Like, you don't really care enough about, like, this to take care of that. Like, do you want to care more, or is this by design? And so it's like he'd never even thought about it, and he's like, I hate that. You're right. Like, but I do. And so it was like this shift where he started looking at things differently, like they deserved to be cared about. Anyway, long story
Yeah.
short, it was a major moment, and it's changed in his behavior as reflected. And it was very odd. And whether or not he actually does care about it, he wants to care about more than two things, like
Yeah.
for him, it was about the principle of the matter. So I just thought that was really, and because what I was saying, I was like, do you want me to care about less? Like, would you be happier if I cared less about these things? I only cared about a couple of things. Do you want me to meet you where you're at, or do you want to meet me where I'm, like? And so he's like, no, I need to care about more things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And a relationship is division of labor and amplification of attributes.
Yeah.
And like, so, if you literally hate doing the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I'm going to step up.
Yep.
I'll always do the dishes
Yes.
because I hate doing laundry.
Yeah.
And so what do you hate more?
Yeah, that's exactly true. We do the same thing.
Yeah. What do you hate less?
Mm-hmm.
And do we think that if I do the dishes and you do the laundry, that is a fair division of labor?
So it's such a good way to do it. Like we do it with cooking and cleaning, like cooking
Yeah.
and cleaning up after dinner. Like he's the cook and then I clean the kitchen. And so but we're both, we're working into our strengths, and B, we like it better
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
And I
so.
want you to know that when you're sick
Mm-hmm.
and you're going through some shit, I will amply step up and do both.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that is my dedication to you
Yeah.
and to us. Because if I do that, you get better faster. And I understand that there's going to be days when I'm sick or I'm working hard, and for us, I work on you for me, or pardon me, you work on you for me, and I work on me for you.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as we're very conscious about that, then there is no, like we're not toweling score.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Michelle Obama said something really that stuck with me. And she said something like, like we've been married for 15 years, and like 4 of those sucked.
Mm.
And she's like, but I would take all these good years and take the 4 that sucks, because the reality is you're going to have bad months,
Heck.
bad days, bad years.
Bad years. Yeah.
And the true test of a relationship is, do we care enough about each other? Do we have the self-love and boundaries enough to either split on good terms and say, hey, I'm not the messenger for you, and you're not the messenger for me. Like, but I'm thankful for what we had. Or do we have the ability to look in the future and say, the juice is still worth the squeeze. So I'm still here. And sometimes you're not going to feel that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to feel that. But we both together in this to be loving and kind enough to help each other see something that maybe we don't see in this moment.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kindness.
So true. So true. And I think, there's so many misconceptions when it comes to marriage and relationships that it should be easy. And to be honest, like it shouldn't be that hard. I always say like marriage is hard, but it's not that hard. If you're really both giving it what you should be, give and take. And sometimes he'll be giving more and I'll be taking, taking more, and then vice versa. It kind of goes like that. But I don't know. I feel like if you're in it to the same degree, it shouldn't be painful. It shouldn't be miserable.
It's going to be as hard as your traumas have been.
Yes.
And your willingness to look at them.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to look at your traumas, then it's going to be a person that maybe wants to love you, but they are trying to constantly fix you, or you constantly trying to fix them.
That's
and then
not good either.
Yeah, that polarity in the charge diminishes once that is done, and you're like, oh, so what's left? Like,
yeah.
Or is this a constant thing that I am now, I am the problem?
Yeah.
Because I'm constantly fixing your problems, and I'm not letting you fail in order for you to build resilience. And I saw that in my last relationship. I took total 100% responsibility, because my trauma was, I will fix everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can't fix.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah. My husband's like that.
Yeah. Water heater breaks. I got this. We don't have to call anybody.
Oh no, he's not like that in those ways.
Yeah.
I wish he was more like that, but yeah, that's amazing.
But mentally, yeah, like there's nothing that I won't, as a like this Virgo.
Yeah. And you're a Marine too. That's probably in your Yeah,
and it occurred to me, I was a part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because if I'm always fixing something for somebody, they are not falling off the bike,
Yeah.
getting back on it,
Yeah.
pedaling and
Yeah.
saying,
Yes.
I did this.
It's almost like you're taking that opportunity away.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
You're,
believe me, I get it.
you're stealing
Yes.
what's called the butterfly moment.
Yes.
When a butterfly is coming out of its cocoon, its wings are wet.
Mm-hmm.
And the force that it takes to move out of that cocoon siphons off the water so they can fly.
Mm-hmm.
When you see a butterfly struggling to come out of its cocoon, if you go there and rip the cocoon off for it, you've pretty much sealed its death sentence. Because it can't fly. Its predators are going to get it. It can't be free. So in the process of trying to heal something, you've actually destroyed it.
Yeah.
And that goes back to like when I'm in a relationship, I'm very conscious about where I'm at in the relationship they're healing. I'm not here to heal you. I'm here to love you. And through that love, if you're willing to accept it, you will heal yourself.
Right.
You will. I don't have to say, are you happy that I did this for you? Are you happy that I laid out roses on the bed? Are you happy that I lit the candles? And are you happy that it's like just being me and living my truth? I don't have to ask you that. You're going to either be conscious enough to appreciate it or not. And if you don't appreciate it, that is not indicative on me. I don't have to take that personally. And that goes back to, if I give you a gift, I'm giving it to you because I'm love bombing your ass. And I'm going to do that a lot. So get used to it, because it's not coming out of fear that I'm going to lose you.
Yeah.
If I don't give you this gift, I'm going to lose you. It's just coming from, I have such an abundance and awareness that I want to give you this. And I want you to feel that you are worthy of this gift, because I felt so unworthy for so long. I know how it fucking feels to be worthy, and then be like, whoa, this is more than anybody has ever given me from their heart. That feels like safety and beauty, and it really kind of like, it's a little scary. Because I'm not used to this. Great, let's change to the paradigm.
Right. Wow. Yeah. That's hard, because it's like, again, it goes back to like this whole narcissism, everything. There's such a, love bombing's got a bad rap right now. Like, it's just, people are so, they have their radars up if a guy does that. But I like the way you explain that.
And the narcissist love bombs because that's what they've learned to get that person's attention.
Yeah.
And they are fearful if they don't do it, that person's going to leave them. They became a narcissist probably because of the fear of somebody's leaving us, and then controlling that.
Yes.
So they're using the control to
manipulate the whole,
manipulate their reality.
Yeah.
And they don't even understand that they're doing it. And it's not a bad or good thing. It's just where people fall into our coping mechanisms. That is their coping mechanism to attract somebody to love them.
Yeah.
But they don't value the love. So when that honeymoon period is over, they need something new and different to love them, because that I can't fill all the holes that have been created by yourself and the person that hurt you. You have to, I can only show you a level of love that you do the work to heal yourself. And if you don't do the work to heal yourself, you'll never accept the level of love I'm giving you. It doesn't matter how much I give you. It will always be not enough.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Like, makes a lot of sense when you say it that way. And then it brings to mind a lot of people that I know who, it's like, you really see people walking around kind of as like open wounds sometimes when you think of it that way. Because I will see somebody who gives and gives and gives and gives and gives, and that person, is just never enough for that person. And it's like this person is like a walking, like it's like a gaping wound walking around that's just
Yeah.
so unhealed. Yeah.
And they
Oof.
are destroying
I know.
beautifully that other
I
person
know. Because that person
because,
is trying to
yeah,
reach them with their.
I'm not enough.
Yeah.
No matter what I do enough. And there's no wrong or right. That person is triggering the other person to finally step up, have boundaries, say, I am enough for myself. And I would rather be too much for you than not enough for myself.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good one. I like that.
So I'm going to just be authentically me.
Yes.
And that vibration will attract a lot of people. Shitty people.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say shitty people, but more wounded people
Yeah.
that want my vibration, but don't know how and what to do with it.
Right.
They just selfishly want that,
That's got to be interesting.
energy vampires.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Or people above me that look at me and say, on the right track.
Right.
Still got a lot of work to do, but man, I can work with that.
Yes. And that's really what it is. Is it a willingness to do the work and self-reflect and be aware? And I think as long as that willingness is there,
Exactly.
two people, even if they're not a perfect vibrating match,
Well, it's heart coherence.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So we don't have to be at the same vibration. The question is, can we come together and match our vibrations into something new, something, different heart coherence? Because my heart is wounded and you are wounded. We're trying to fit together like a puzzle piece. And that requires you to adjust, and it requires me to adjust. And that adjustment is from our default programming. If I'm willing to do that, that is the highest form of love. Because I'm willing to look at myself and see that I can evolve. And I'm willing to look at you and say, you have something that I need for me to be better. Beyond my desires, my needs.
Yes.
Now getting back to the child wound.
Yeah.
What are my needs? I need to feel protected. I need safety. I need kindness and love. These are just like core needs that were wounded when we were children.
Yeah.
That we developed coping mechanisms that changed our perception and our reality. So we're walking around wounded. And that is the whole point of relationships, because you can't be alone on your island for too long.
Yeah.
Because you're just in your own head. Great. You learned and saw yourself. You sat with your shadow. Now it's the time to come out into community.
Yeah.
And risk being triggered, risk being wounded again.
Well, I was actually going to add, that's kind of going to be my next question for you, because we talked about a little bit about the growth that one experiences or should experience when they enter into a relationship with someone, and how it really forces a person out of their comfort zone. And we talked about how it's pretty much required, though, in order to have a healthy relationship. So we talked about, I remember we talked at length about this in the pre-interview, because you don't take it lightly. If you're going to give somebody, you don't enter into these things lightly. So what is your feeling about this, and what has been your experience? And because the way I heard you describe, like, getting into a relationship, you for lack of a better term, you understand the assignment. You understand, like, you got to get out of your comfort zone, and you got to start seeing there are things you're going to see things differently about her, about the other person, about yourself, whatever. So can you talk a little bit about that, about the growth that you experience or should experience when you enter into a relationship?
So I always think I understand the assignment. And the humility in that process of being present is understanding I don't, I think I know it all, but I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of when I'm triggered, and it's giving me a chance to sit within another person's vibration and feel, are they safe or are they not safe?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not safe, can we work towards, are they willing to grow, and I'm going to teach them how to hold this container for me? And do they have the capability when I'm triggered for them to teach me
Mm-hmm.
how to hold this container for them if I don't even or already know it? And that is just the beauty of understanding that everybody has different traumas
Mm-hmm.
and different needs and different wants. And where I think it's beautiful is when we get to a point of in life or consciousness that we can put somebody else needs before our desires,
Yeah.
and not in the sense that we're like not setting boundaries and abandoning ourselves, but to the point where we can literally say like my desire will override their need right now. So I'm anxious attached. So I'm always like, when I'm sending you poems,
Mm-hmm.
you got me.
Mm.
Like, um, you've deeply triggered
Yeah.
something in me beautifully that I want to express. But if you're an avoidant attached person, and formerly avoidant, and that's triggering you too much, well, the right there is the trigger
Mm-hmm.
too much.
Mm-hmm.
So now, do I have the ability to pull back
Mm-hmm.
and give you the love and attention you need, the
Mm-hmm.
way you need it,
Mm-hmm.
versus the way I want to express it?
Mm.
And that is true love. When you can look at a person and say, I can be patient,
Yeah.
or I can give you more.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need? And what do you desire? And how can I adjust? Because, and are you willing to adjust?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm willing to
Right.
play the game by your rules,
Yeah.
are you willing to change the rules to suit us, to suit me?
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to do that, then this is going to be a one-sided relationship
100%.
where I'm abandoning myself and I'm not living my authentic truth. Um, and what is that?
Yeah.
You
No.
know?
Yes. And there are a lot of one-sided relationships. It's a dance. It's a dance between. I don't know if the word compromise is the right word, but
It
it's
is compromise.
two human beings coming together, and we each have separate needs and unique needs, and understanding also too. Like recently did an episode, my husband and I, on marriage and relationships, and my son listened to it, my 21-year-old, and he's like, I learned so much. This tool, this tip and that tip, and a lot of what it came down to, what he learned was about like learning how to compromise, or like when, like what we do is like we look at like, okay, we're butting heads on something. This is important to me. This is important to him. We get very honest in that moment and go, okay, who is it more important to? Like,
Yeah.
and let's just be honest about it, because it always comes back around to where the other person's more important to them. And we've built that trust to where we can ask the question and be honest. Okay, it probably means more to you, whatever it is. And so you have to look at those things honestly. But yeah, it's like you're never going to 100% agree on everything, and you're never going to 100% be in alignment with everything.
And the victim says, I compromised.
I know.
The resilient person says, I compromised.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing because, and like I said, like there are years for us, it was years because of me, but where he was like really giving 80% and me 20, like, and then and then it got less and less, and then it got equal, and then now it's like me, but it's not because he wants me to. He doesn't demand that of me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be with a man that would be like that anyways, but you want to, it's like you should, I hate to use the word should, but I'm glad that I want to. I'm glad that I'm the kind of person who appreciates him so much that I'm going to spend the rest of my life, or, for the foreseeable future, really just trying to give as much as I can where I can, because he did that for me.
And it's a conscious choice. So when somebody says, like when I'm counseling or coaching, and there's like, oh, I compromise. I'm like, well, so you made a decision that violated the boundaries that you never set. How do you feel about that?
Oh.
At least this person now taught you there's a boundary that you need to set and enact and be unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying, I compromised for him, like, then you're saying it from a stance of power.
Yeah.
Like, I compromised.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Whether or not it did anything for me or to me, good or bad, I was willing to take that sacrifice. And that willingness and knowing to step into something and saying, I'm willing to compromise. Like, I'll drive.
There's strength in that.
Yeah, there's immense strength.
It's not like you're giving up and giving in. I think there's a perception that that's what that is, and it's not. When you're in a relationship where there's mutual respect and love, there's strength in that. There's one thing when someone's taking advantage of you and you're getting manipulated and you're compromising on your morals, values, ethics, whatever, because they've manipulated you. You fail to set the bound, whatever it is.
Exactly.
That's a different conversation.
It's all on you. It's not on them.
Right.
You compromised because you weren't strong enough and you maybe didn't know. That's fine. But now you know.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Now
so set the boundaries.
Yeah.
Don't compromise anymore.
Yeah.
And compromise in the most loving ways that you see somebody that's willing to compromise for you. And maybe when you're buying that house, he wants the pool, but you want the mountains. I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
Finding that compromise and saying, you know what? I'm not going to get the pool, but I'm going to love living in the mountains with you. And there's a stream right nearby.
Yeah.
So I can go swimming in the stream, and maybe you hate water and you don't. It's all for me.
It's unrealistic to think or expect that you're going to see everything eye to eye 100% of the time. And I think that's another thing too, is people will view something as like a red flag. That's not a red flag because we're all different, And so, in experiencing life together and exposing each other to new interesting either ideas or experiences is part of it,
You said it.
Yeah.
Exposing ourselves.
Why would you want to deprive? Why would you want somebody who agreed and believed everything you are? To me, that's like, where's the fun in that?
No.
It's going to get boring real quick. Okay. So I want to move on to fear. Because I feel like most of us have experienced some level of fear where relationships are concerned, and that's primarily what we're talking about today. But this even goes for family, friendships, partnerships, in business. Sometimes it's fear of vulnerability, disappointment, failure, commitment. For you personally, and we're talking about, like, as in my former question about getting into a relationship and understanding, quote unquote, the assignment. What are you most afraid of when it comes to either dating or relationships? Is there something?
Yeah, it used to be I was afraid of not being loved. It used to be I was afraid of not being understood because I do have a brain injury
from
Iraq
military,
as a contractor. Car bomb. I had to learn how to walk and talk again. Still have fragments of metal in my brain. No one can tell because I articulate well. I have great coping mechanisms, and I know when to stop and take a break. But my fear was, in my last relationship, just not being fully understood, and that taking that upon myself, like something's wrong with me. Like she just doesn't get the way I think, and my dynamic abstract thoughts. And then what I learned was it's not about me. Once
Yeah.
again, it's not about me,
Yeah.
because you will have 100 people that don't get you. You're not here to change the way they perceive life. You're here to find the one person that does. And when that person gets you and you get them, there's really nothing to fear.
Yeah. I agree.
Because growth is stunted by our fear of the unknown. There's what you know and what you don't know. And you
Yeah.
actually know what you don't know. I know I don't speak Sherman. But then you have what you don't know that you don't know. That is on the other side of reality, a new paradigm, a new reality. So, what is attractive to me, because I want to grow and I also want to have fun. I don't want to be in a growth mindset my whole life. I want to be present in this life with somebody that is present in this life, but also I can show a different paradigm and they can show me a different paradigm, a just different reality.
Yeah.
Where we're growing together and vibing, and that makes the fun part of life
Yeah.
more precious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
100%.
what is fucking going to the beach, a beautiful beach, and arguing?
Oh gosh.
It doesn't mean shit.
No.
Going to a beautiful beach
Wonder how often that occurs.
all the time. Like I
Oh,
you know,
that sounds
I've been in
Ugh.
relationships where every time we went on a vacation, like I'm ending up fucking walking around Prague crying.
no.
Like, and wondering what the hell
no.
is wrong with me in this relationship where we're fighting constantly, and
Ugh.
it's not about me. There are parts of it that I can control.
Even
and
on vacation.
yeah, and it's like, no, you want to go on a vacation where maybe you are triggered,
Yeah.
but you move through that trigger so
Yes.
damn fast
Yes.
that you're like, I am so more attracted to you right now. Like, I can't wait
Yeah.
for dinner and after dinner.
Yeah.
And it's not a trauma bond.
No.
And it's not like the makeup sex.
Right.
Because we fought so hard
People
to
are
get
addicted to that.
right. Like, we fought so hard to get here.
Passion.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with like makeup sex, because the fight to get there
Yeah.
is, it shouldn't be like we fight in our relationships for each other, not against each other. And then we get a little bit more conscious. We conversate with each other. We don't fight
Yeah.
with each other.
Yeah.
And that can get heated,
Yeah.
but it doesn't get to the point where it's disrespectful,
100%.
because you're thinking about me
Yes.
more than you're thinking about your trauma and the patterns that you have that you want to lash out because you don't feel heard and you want to scream and call names. You're thinking about what that would do to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Ooh,
that's true oneness.
Yeah.
Because the reality, in my reality, I reserve the right to be wrong, is I'm not meant to be in solitude.
Yeah.
I am meant to seek the disillusion and dissolving of parts of me through another person so we can become one.
Yeah.
So I do things without them even asking. And they do things without me even asking, because we are so in sync
Yes.
as a person. Like, that's the true power couple.
Yeah.
It's not on Instagram and we're faking it to make it and we're showing this bullshit.
Have you ever been in a relationship like that?
I did. I
Yeah,
was. And
I always wonder about those. You know, I post on our birthdays, anniversaries, Father's Day, you know, Christmas and stuff like that. We'll post like pictures of our family or us together, whatever. But it seems to me, this is not a blanket statement by any means. So don't take offense to this, listeners, if this is you. But a lot of the marriages I know of that end up splitting up, they were the people that would overpost each other a lot. And maybe I'm just I don't know. I don't know what my reasoning is for not wanting, I don't need, no one cares. I think, that's really what at the heart of it. And I feel like no one gives a shit. Like, no one cares. I mean, really, I'm posting, my social media is like my nice little photo album diary. So it's cool. But I start to see a correlation between couples that are splitting up and at the rate they posted a few years prior.
There's a high correlation.
What is that about?
There's a high correlation with that because the need to project an image that seldom resonates beyond the camera.
Well, you would think it would be the opposite. You would think that the ones who never post are probably the ones that are they doing okay? We never see them together anymore.
Yeah, they're living life.
Yeah, exactly.
They're present.
That's what I would say. I mean,
they're not taking Instagram selfies of how great they are, and then they're actually fighting in the background because somebody's disconnected, and it's like, oh my God, I have to hold the camera again for you to take this beautiful shot on the beach. And it's now not about you and me being on the beach. Mm-hmm. It's about you, me, and a million other people on the beach. And where does your value lie? Mm-hmm. Is it in the present moment with me, or is it in this very finite moment with me? And now you're on your phone looking at all the likes you're getting.
You're trying to figure out which picture you want to post and then editing it and like,
and we're not present together. And I understand that. But in the end, my brother is an amazing human, and he always would take pictures of everything. And his really good friend, who has a flip phone, once yelled at him and said, "Put your fucking phone away right now." Because my brother was like, "Dude, look at the sunset." He's like, "Put your fucking phone away right now." Mm-hmm. And my brother was like, "What, man? Like, I'm documenting." He's like, "No, man, be present."
Yeah. Yes.
If this is the most beautiful sunset you've ever seen, trust me, the neuroscience is there. Your picture is going to fade away from your memory. It's going to become the 15,000 picture in your vault of pictures, and maybe you'll get to it when you're scrolling through 15,000 pictures. But if you're present right now, you're living in the moment, you are very grateful in this moment. It's hard to be grateful with a picture.
Yeah.
It's great. It's easier to be grateful with a memory.
And that's so much more valuable. We were just in Vegas for the U2 concert. They were playing at the Sphere, and I'm not a big U2. I mean, I like U2, but it's my husband's favorite band. So we went, the kids and Mark and I went, and everybody had their phone out, and I tried, because I'm like, okay, I guess you can't enjoy it. You just can't enjoy it. Yeah. I did it, and then I saved it, because I obviously wasn't going to post right then and there. Yeah. And then I was like, I can't. And Mark did it. But in the Sphere is cool, and I'm glad we did have some shots of it. But for me, I don't know I used to be able to be someone who could be, I wouldn't say I was told, I'm way more present now than I've ever been in my entire life. And it did take stopping with the pictures, stopping with the videos, stopping with the stories and stuff. I feel for the people that are influencers who they literally have to document their lives 24/7 and share them. That's like their job. It's how they get paid. Yeah. I don't, and I enjoy watching that stuff as a viewer.
Yeah, no shame.
But I can't imagine doing it. I especially can't imagine doing it without getting paid.
Yeah, right.
Not now anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe at one point in
Not
life.
getting paid.
Well, I guess you get paid through attention. And at one point in my life, that would have been enough for me.
And that's,
but
everything is energy.
But it takes you out of the moment. It takes you out. I mean, the value that you miss, you're risking missing so much value to have content.
And if you have a partner, that partner is a willing participant in that diversion of energy.
Yeah.
Willingly or unwillingly. Boundaries or self-love. And if, you're okay with that, great.
Yeah.
There's no shade for that. Like, that's being there for your partner.
Yeah.
But is your partner being there then for you?
Yes.
In the ways that you need it? Or are you the guy, and I felt like the guy, that was always taking pictures?
Yeah.
I'm in the background.
Yeah.
And the only time I'm in the foreground is to project an image of solidarity, and the image that, I don't know,
like, look how great we have it.
Look how great we have it, but we're not really talking about the reality behind. We're not really getting vulnerable.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely can't come out and say, hey, I feel lonely.
Yeah.
I feel this or feel that, because that goes against the narrative. So then it becomes, why am I living this narrative that I'm not being my true authentic self, and I can't express my true authentic self? That's not on anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's on me.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean necessarily leaving the relationship, but that means having boundaries and lovingly placing those boundaries there and saying, this is what I will do. This is what, let's create different spaces.
Yeah.
Where we do this or do that. And everything in a relationship is about, am I willing to do this, and are you willing to do this?
Yeah.
To make a compromise, that beautiful compromise.
Yeah.
To make this work.
Yeah.
And it's no problem if you're not willing to do it, or if I'm not willing to do it. Those are our boundaries, or lack thereof. Those are our desires and wants and needs, and they either match or they don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that helps
Yeah.
you go into a relationship where, when you're conscious, you're saying, one moment, one day, 1 year, one lifetime, no matter how long this lasts, I am committed to the process of learning about me through you, and loving you through me, and learning. And so if we decide that we're not learning and loving and having fun, and there's we can't do that for each other, I'll be the first one to say, from you or me, I'll be the first one maybe to recognize it.
Yeah.
And we'll have that conversation.
Yeah. It's interesting that this is a whole nother conversation that we probably can't get into right now, but it's interesting that you're the one that recognized it, because typically it's the female that would recognize things like this. But you mentioned you have a history of dating more like alpha women anyway. Yeah. So that kind
and
of
that
tracks.
plays into my wound, because an alpha knows what she wants, right?
Right.
Whether she is in her love or fear, abundance or lack. I chose a lot of alpha women that were in their knowing, but also lack.
Yeah.
So they needed me, wanted me to fulfill them. And when I couldn't, because no one can fulfill everything, then it was like, well, what value do I have? And if a person cannot understand your value, then it goes back to, you can love somebody a million times more than their last person, but they're still not going to accept it. And then I have to take things responsibility for my actions because I'm not perfect. I've cheated. I've done things, but I know why I did them.
Yeah, I
I've,
actually wanted to ask you about that, about infidelity, as we start to wrap up, if you wouldn't mind talking
Yeah.
about. Okay, um, I was gonna ask you, do you have any experience with being unfaithful or having a partner who was, and what are your thoughts on it, and like, what do you think is the reason why people cheat? There's like 3 questions, so just pick,
Yeah.
choose which one you want.
I think, and once again, I could be wrong. I think, and I'm basing it off of my own experiences of being unfaithful. I think people cheat because they have a core wound of not being enough. That's one polarity,
Mm-hmm.
and not being able to communicate what they need.
Mm-hmm.
So you teach people how to love you.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to understand what you need and want and desire, then you're going to have a hard time because people are not mind readers.
Right.
The other polarity is that people cheat because they can,
Mm.
because they are emboldened. Their ego says there's no repercussions. And even if there are, I don't care about the
Yeah.
repercussions.
Yeah.
I'm so selfish. And both areas are selfish. You know, but I'm so selfish to where I would destroy
Mm-hmm.
myself, my partner, or the person and their partner or whatever. So
Do you think it's because they don't, I talked to a friend of mine about this episode, and I told her about some of the questions. I was like, yeah, I'm going to ask about why people cheat. And she was like, I really want to know the answer to that. And I wonder, is it because they don't value the relationship? Do they still, if somebody cheats, is that a sign that do not value their relationship?
yeah, but it's more of a sign that they don't value themselves.
Okay.
Because if I hurt you, remember we go back to we're all one, separated by egos. One fractal of source energy or God, whatever you want to call it. We are a part of oneness. You know, the vibrations that are vibrating through this universe are making the trees grow.
Right.
It's making us grow. So when I hurt you, I hurt myself if I'm conscious about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that emboldens me to not hurt other people because I don't want that karma coming back on me. Karma is not a bitch. Karma is there to teach us what we are not or what we are blind to.
Yeah.
So, and what we need to fix within our core wound. It goes back to the polarity of either I'm selfish and I'm reckless and I want what I want. That's still a core wound.
Yeah.
And it does, you know, I think we've talked about like the relationship. Something's missing in the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something possibly missing in the relationship. There's always something missing in the relationship because that's the excuse.
Right.
That's the justification.
Right.
So I cheated because
Or if it doesn't give me enough attention, or
my ex wasn't kind, loving, as sexual as I was, and didn't show me like the attention I needed.
Right.
So I found I found somebody who would.
Right.
And what I needed to do was look at one, is my need healthy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where is that need stemming from?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like over? Is it porn based?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a really lack in my self esteem and self awareness that I can't compromise something that is a core wound in myself and heal, or am I just emboldened to be an asshole?
Yeah.
And there's still a wound there.
Yeah.
And or more so is like why am I not communicating that? Instead of cheating,
That's what I always wonder. I always wonder why not communicate prior to, don't let it get to that point.
because we're all cowards.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that's real. Like,
Yeah.
I was a coward
Yeah.
when I cheated, because if I had been emboldened, one, I wouldn't have cheated.
Mm-hmm.
I would have said, hey, listen, this relationship is not working.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to go separate ways, because I would rather hurt you with the truth than hurt you with a lie.
Yeah.
Or, this is not working. Can we talk about this? I need more affection from you.
Yeah.
And I need to know and understand why maybe you're not giving me the affection I need.
Yeah.
Maybe, are you working hard? Is it the kids? Like, I want to be a part of this solution
Exactly.
rather than be a part of the problem.
Yeah. And just blame. Yeah.
And then use excuses for my actions
Mm-hmm.
that justify in the moment
Mm-hmm.
why I'm doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But in an outside reality, beyond the narcissistic, shit that I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
there's no justification.
Yeah, I think I wonder how if it can be like a drug, like you've been in a relationship for a while and you're sort of in it, and then you get this high, this dopamine hit, or like whatever it is that happens when you know, and then you become you can't see past it,
Yes, I know
Yeah.
a person right now
Yeah.
who is using being a healer to cheat and attract that energy. And the more he cheats, the more he steps it up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got her, and she's really, really pretty. The less he will commit to those, because why not?
Oh my
If I
gosh.
could get more and have more, nothing will ever fill me. Nothing will ever be good enough, because the selfishness, the ego says, I can have more.
Yeah.
And that person is married.
Yeah. Wow.
And then there's another dynamic where she stays with him knowing
Mm-hmm.
and finding out these multiple times
Mm-hmm.
there's lack of self-love, lack of boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
or, oh my God, he got that girl.
Yeah.
If I lose him, if he can get that type of girl and I lose him, I'll never find another guy that can get that. It's trauma bonding at its worst.
Yeah.
And that just leads to lifelong misery until somebody, more of his wife, says, I'm not doing this. I love
No.
myself so much. I'll go into debt. I will venture into the darkness, because something and anything has to be better than this. The way you're treating me, you despicable fuck.
No, dude.
I'm out.
Yeah, it's awful.
And it's sad because
And I think it sounds to me like the way that it's reading to me, it's like an addiction. It's like
Yeah.
more and more and better. And yeah, it reads like an addiction or like an obsession.
and women who have been in long-term relationships and given up their life, had kids, forego their careers, are now vested with a person who doesn't care and will hurt them because there's no repercussions. That breaks my heart, because, and we talked about this. This is the ugly truth. Men get better. Women,
Yeah.
I think women get better. That's why I date older
each
women.
other, yeah.
But their value in general society, men fare better after divorce. These are statistics. Like,
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because usually the woman after divorce takes the kids. So that's already put them at a disadvantage for going out and for being more present with another individual. There's societal, stigmas of like, oh, you have kids.
Yeah.
And when I see a woman with kids, I'm like, oh man, I love this.
Yeah. I was actually I'm sure you saw I was going to ask you
Yeah.
about that.
I want to see how, um, I want to see her motherhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause-
That's actually one of the things that because I had my son was 1 when I met my husband, and he was like, it's like a glimpse into, how you would be as the mother
Yeah.
of my children. So it was like yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Like I have 6 kids. Like if you want to
Yeah.
know how much of a father or a person, a human I am, look at my kids.
Yeah.
They are
so true.
they are the best Yelp review that I have.
So true.
And my buddy also, he gave me the most beautiful compliment. He's like, man, if your exes wrote reviews on you,
Mm-hmm.
you would like have 5-star. Like,
Oh, really? Well, that's good. Wow. I wonder if you're going to get
maybe
any
a couple
messages
1
from
stars.
Yeah. I wonder if you're going to get
Yeah.
any messages from any single ladies listening. Okay.
Maybe
I'm going to
3s.
go through a couple rapid fire questions as we start to close. How do you feel about a woman who makes the first move, whether it be that they're the one contacting you for a date? This is coming from women asking this question. They're the one contacting you for a date or something more physical, making the first move on a physical level. How do you feel when a woman takes charge in that respect?
I don't care either way
Okay.
because everything is vibration and I'm going to feel into that vibration,
Okay.
whether it's coming from, lust, love,
Yeah.
lack, abundance.
Yeah. So you don't have a heart. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about opening doors, pulling out chairs, paying on a date, just that kind of stuff? How do you feel about it, and how do they generally respond to it in this day and age?
I have this philosophy: the way you train is the way you fight.
Yeah.
So I open up the door for my sister, mother, any woman, and so I was teaching a men's class, and they were like, "Oh, so you do that to make them feel special?" And I'm like, "No, you do that because you're special.
Mm-hmm.
Have some self-pride.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't take any effort for you to open up and be chivalrous
Yeah.
and make sure that she's getting into the car. It doesn't take anything and if you're putting limitations on what you think a woman or a man should do, get out of that."
Well, how are this? I mean, like I said, I've been away from this for a while, but I wonder, like this day and age, are women still appreciating it? They still appreciate that?
I think so.
I mean, I would if it was me, but I don't know.
And here's the thing. It goes back to, I don't do it for you.
Right.
I do it for me.
Yeah, it's part of who you are.
So whether or not you appreciate it
Yeah.
or not,
Yeah.
doesn't mean if you don't appreciate it, I'm going to stop doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I get
So
it.
I'm living my authentic truth.
I get it.
Because if I do it enough, maybe one day you'll be like,
You'll see. Yeah.
yeah, like, wow, I really appreciate that, he has the means to pay for the dinners
Yeah.
and it doesn't live in the lack, like we have to split this. But if I wanted to split it because I want to feel empowered,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't have any problem letting me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically saying, I value you. What do you need?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go in with my beautiful default programming. But if you say, David, I don't need you to open my door,
Mm-hmm.
but thank you, I'd be like,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it. That makes sense.
Still going to open my mom's door.
Yeah.
Like-
I'm not gonna change who you are as a person.
Yeah. I will take an adjustment and
Right.
compromise.
What are you? And this might be too personal, but are you looking for a relationship? Why or why not? Is it something where? Because for me, I would think that if I was single, it would. If the right person comes, the right person comes. But how do you feel about looking for a relationship versus just being out dating?
I believe that you should just live your authentic truth, and you attract. I'm a big Joe Dispenza guy, so like I attract.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see myself manipulating
Mm-hmm.
energy,
Yeah.
like, oh, she's pretty, I'm going to put myself in that situation. Then I feel like, no, it was meant to be. It's meant to be.
Yeah.
And if it's not meant to be right now, then there's something that I still have to learn.
Yeah.
That's not to say I don't have desires or wants, I'm actively receiving
Mm-hmm.
instead of pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're running or chasing something, that and it means it's running away
Yeah.
from you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm receiving
Yeah.
energy
Yeah.
and being discernful about that energy and saying, all right, I'm not going to be anxious attachment Dave, but I'm going to be authentic Dave. I'm going to write the poems. I'm going to do the things that make me feel good that maybe somebody else hasn't had. So if they appreciate that, great. Then we're going to be aligning more.
Yeah.
And how do we handle our triggers?
Right.
If not, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
How do you feel about, for all the single moms listening, how do you feel about dating just as a single man? How do you feel about dating a woman who has small children?
I think
There's
it's
no issues
great.
with-
Yeah,
yeah.
there's no issues.
And I don't think there should, I don't know, I don't think there should be, but
And I do have a philosophy, and some people will be like, this is freaking crazy, and I don't agree with it. I think women, when dating, should date multiple men
mm-hmm.
and feel into those men
Mm-hmm.
to see who is safe,
Mm-hmm.
see who is present, see who, they can grow with. With men in general, especially younger men, I say you should focus on one woman at a time, because it's really hard for us to get into our true feelings
Yeah.
about somebody. So when men are dating multiple people, we can get into analysis paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that women can't get into that too, but women in general are feeling entities. So when they are in their knowing, they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying when a woman is dating multiple men, is she sleeping with them? She's dating to figure out who is safe,
Mm-hmm.
who's fun,
Mm-hmm.
who is expandable with my energy.
Yeah.
Instead of just dating one person, sleeping with them, and it goes to men fall in love through vasopressin,
Mm-hmm.
women fall in love through sex.
Mm-hmm.
He could be horrible at sex, but you view a woman in this is data, this is science.
Mm-hmm. No, I've heard this. Yeah.
If she spends enough time with him, she's going to get emotionally bonded,
Yeah.
and the sex is not going to be as big of an issue because it's the security she's looking for.
Yeah.
Men fall in love through vasopressin, and we have to, because of testosterone, we have to develop vasopressin receptors, and that only actually happens when we abstain from sex. So we have to court a woman
Mm-hmm.
and feel the polarities and shifts, and still desire the juices where the squeeze
Yeah.
to be in that.
Yeah.
And then, and only then, when we have, intimacy with them, and it should be intimacy not in sex, intimacy as bonding,
Mm-hmm.
walking, holding,
Mm-hmm.
loving each other, or expressing love before sex. Because once a man has sex, his whatever vasopressin,
What does that mean? I'm sorry. I've never even heard of that term.
yeah. So we have, men in general have testosterone
Uh-huh.
and vasopressin.
Uh-huh.
It takes time for a man to develop vasopressin receptors,
Uh-huh.
because his testosterone is like always overriding it.
Okay.
So if a man meets you
Uh-huh.
and has sex with you, the first date, first week, he hasn't, unless he's already developed vasopressin receptors, which is probably not, the testosterone like destroys the vasopressin. His ability.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
when a man has sex, it
Mhm.
jumps his testosterone.
Got it.
So that's a science
Mhm.
behind love.
Mm-hmm.
And a woman, has to abstain so she can feel into, does this guy really value me? Is he really on the same trajectory I am at, or do I want to, bond with his trajectory? Are we a soulful match? Are we good together?
Yeah.
Like, do we trigger each other? And it goes beyond the basic desire for sex.
Yeah.
It's abstaining from that
Yeah.
for both people to really see where they're at. And
Wow.
that is meaning going to relationships. Like if you're like, if there's nothing, like, I'm not old school in the sense that like you do what you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you're there and having a good time, you're in Tulum,
Yeah.
you meet somebody
Yeah.
at a festival, you're safe, whatever. That's yours. Like there's just the spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
soulful
Mm-hmm.
connections
Mm-hmm.
that if you have your boundaries
Mm-hmm.
and this is what it is, whatever. Yeah, I can drone on about that.
Yeah. Wow. That I did not know that what was behind all that. I knew that there was some evidence to suggest that the longer men wait, the more they catch feelings and the more
Yeah.
chances. And it's fun. I knew none of that. And when I met Mark, we waited for a really long time because I was just new out of my marriage. And so I just was like very walled off in all ways, physical, mental, emotional, everything. But for whatever reason, he just would not go away. So, he fell in love with me before we even made it to the bedroom.
Yeah, spiritually,
which is interesting.
3 days for men
Yeah,
and 30 days for women.
really.
After you have sex,
Uh-huh.
spiritually, soulfully,
Yeah.
a woman's energy stays in a man for 3 days. That's why he can be like,
He can move on.
yeah, a woman, 30 days. So she's thinking about
I
him.
know.
She's pining for him. Her thoughts are consumed about him. And so without the vasopressin and the receptors for a man,
Mm-hmm.
it's 3 days and we're like our mind is just like squirrel.
Yeah.
So we have to build within ourselves this discipline to be like, all right, I can extend this 3 days to 5 and 7 and 8.
So, but it's interesting that there is a biological explanation for it because, when men get can get hate for that, kind of thing. Like
it's reproductive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I guess I knew that on a obvious level, but the way you explained it, yeah, I feel like I'm going to be telling other people that too. That's very, very interesting. Okay, I know we're out of time here, but as we close, because I do have other rapid fire questions I want to ask you, so I might have to have you back on.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see. But as we close, I want to sincerely thank you for coming on and for being so open and vulnerable. I know the topic of dating in your 40s for both men and women can, for some, stir up negative stereotypes. And because my mission is one that aims to shed light on topics that can be unfairly stigmatized, I just really want to show my appreciation and thank you for allowing me to pick your brain on some of this stuff. I have learned so much, and I know our listeners will as well. For those who want to find you online to inquire about your coaching services or whatnot, or women who might want to date you, just kidding. I mean, I'm not kidding, actually. We don't know, maybe. Is it okay for me to leave your Instagram handle in the show notes, or how do people get in touch with you if they want?
Yeah, david.gregory.casler.
Okay.
And currently I'm not accepting any applications.
Okay, good.
So,
good to know. Okay, ladies, stand down. But for maybe you coach men and women.
Yeah,
I know you.
men,
Yeah, you
women,
enjoy coaching men.
relationships.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, perfect. So I'll put that information there. And okay, guys, thank you so much for joining. Thanks again, David, for being here, and we will see you guys back here next week. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this conversation, please give it a like and leave me a comment. I want to know what you guys think. Also, if you're looking for more information about how to be a guest on the show, please go to our website at humanityunlockedpodcast.com. We only record shows in person, and we are located in Sacramento, California. Oh, and if you're not subscribed, make sure you tap that button so you can get updated on weekly episodes as they go live. Is that it? I think that's it. See you guys next time.